Okay, this special city council meeting workshop is called to order. Number 2, public comments, I have none. Number 3, code enforcement department annual update. Chief?
So code enforcement is pretty small. It's a pretty big job. It's not a very popular job, obviously. Everybody wants something done as long as it's not to them. But there we are. It recently moved to the police department towards the end of last year. So I'm the department head over code enforcement. My records secretary helps send out the letters that go along with code enforcement, which there are a ton of letters that go out for code enforcement. And then we have Officer Fish that still goes out and does the inspections, follows up on the complaints, and things like that. It is anticipated, or at least it was anticipated, that we were going to have one of the school resource officers participate in code enforcement when school let out for the summer. However, as of today, it's not looking very likely. We are told that he probably, his Achilles tendon probably went out today. So we don't know what that means at this point, but it doesn't mean anything very good, I can promise you that. The responsibilities for code enforcement, nuisance abatement. Code enforcement runs the gamut. Junk, trash, high grass, abandoned vehicles. A lot of what the ordinances, the titles of the ordinances are a little bit misleading. You really have to read down into it to determine exactly what they mean. Abandoned vehicle can mean abandoned vehicle, or abandoned vehicle can mean it's sitting on a public roadway with an expired tag for more than a certain number of hours. Not necessarily what many people would call an abandoned vehicle, but it could be, or it is in fact. So there's a lot of interpretation. Probably the most recent thing that came up would be like political signs. Man oh man, can you read a bunch into that? So there's a lot of room for interpretation. We get to play the role of lawyer even though we're not. It's fine. Dilapidated structures. That's a big thing that we're going through right now. I'm sure that many people have heard about that. Lots of letters have gone out, lots of posters have went up on houses, buildings, all kinds of odds and ends, sheds, structures, and the like. For the most part, these things are, we evaluate these structures to be beyond 50% of their value to repair. They're to be unoccupied. Occasionally, the code inspector mistakes them, thinks that they're unoccupied when they're not. If you look at some of these houses, it's kind of sadly easy to understand why it appears that they're unoccupied. When we make a mistake, we try to own up to it. We try to apologize as best we can, and we try to work with those owners as best we can to correct the problem. We are only human, and we do err, and we try to own up to that. When mistakes have been made, there are other code enforcement problems that we have to deal with because they are inhabiting structures that are well beyond what is classified as inhabitable by humans. So, and we understand that there are people with limited means, and we try to work with them. Neighborhood Solutions is a very valued partner in this community, and they work with a lot of people to at least get these structures livable, thankfully. Minimum maintenance of residential and commercial structures. That can run the gamut of peeling paint, water rot, shingles that have gone well past their shelf life and are crumbling. You name it, it's probably a violation somewhere that has to be dealt with so that the whole value of the neighborhood does not deteriorate. Zoning violations, floodplain management, signage violations like we talked about earlier. The progression of code enforcement more than 5 years ago, the department was viewed as overly aggressive. Within the last 5 years we've been viewed as not aggressive enough. It was set up so that we've approached it so that on first contact with people, we send them a letter, and it's a very nice, touchy-feely kind of letter saying, hey, if you don't realize there's a problem, here's the problem. Try to take care of it if at all possible. If you do, we won't be back. Not an issue. We'll go away. See you later. Bye. That works in many cases. A lot of times it doesn't. If we come back the second time, ideally, then we start following up with citations or we get more aggressive in our actions. That's how the program's set up. It hasn't always been followed up that way. Since it's moved down into my department, we are trying to get back in line with that. That's a little bit different for people to get used to. They've kind of gotten into we want 1,000 warnings, and that's what we're used to getting. So we're taking it slow. We're trying not to manhandle or bully people. It's a progression, and these people are our customers, and we treat them as such. And we realize that times are hard on everyone. So it's a good system. We want to get back to it. We want to treat everybody fairly. We want to go slowly. We don't want to make it hard or any harder on anybody than it absolutely has to be. Statistics. See the number of complaints that we've received for 2012, 2013, 2014, and thus far to date. And then the letters that we send out. You get a lot of complaints and they're handled verbally. You get a lot of complaints and they're handled with letters. We've gone through, we've taken a very, if it's not handled with a letter, we don't know how else to handle it for a couple of years. And we're trying to ramp that up a little bit because everything's not handled with a letter.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
I understand on the gray, the latest part is only a partial year, but it looks like if you double that or a little more than double that, the trend still seems to be slightly going down. Would that be true?
Maybe. Part of the problem is we've made that transition from planning to the police department. So one thing that I would ask you to realize is that it was a huge thing for me to catch up on because I had no idea about code enforcement. So there was quite the lull there where code enforcement, without direction, acted accordingly. They waited on direction, and since there was none forthcoming, they just waited.
Don't you
We
get
also
more
haven't hit the growth season.
summer?
Right, and summer is oncoming. Plus, one of the biggest things is we really wanted to work on the council's strategic goal of dilapidated structures, which had been not touched for several years, and had not, yes, you all made that really the only strategic goal that I had, a drive that I could get behind. So I wanted to make sure that I could get behind that fully, and I needed to be able to understand it. So that's kind of what I got behind. And while I delved into that, I wasn't really paying attention to high grass.
Do you think that the trend will, once you get really in line, do you think that trend will go up a little more, or do you think it'll stay less? I don't know if that's a good trend going down.
No, right now,
It should go
no.
up.
As it's gone down, I can tell you that that's not a good trend because.
Can I ask a question
Yes.
for clarification? Do you mean the complaints or the letters sent?
I guess both, because they both seem to be
Okay.
trending down. I'm just wondering if that's, is this a good thing? Should it really be going up? Because I know there's a sweet spot between being too
Complaints.
aggressive and not
Right.
aggressive enough. And
Right now, that ended in March. And that was right before we got the rain, that was right before the heat started coming on. And I can tell you that the majority of the complaints and the majority of the letters that we send come in Tallgrass. So right now, we are hitting our busy season, and it'll be the same time that Maxine hits her busy season, because Tallgrass is when all the complaints start coming. Not all the complaints, but by far the majority starts coming in, because that's when the rodents, the snakes, everything else starts coming around.
It's only 2 years also, and I would suggest that you really can't see a trend from 2 years.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. So yes, you'll see as time progresses, it'll even out some. The most common types of complaints: accumulation of materials and high grass. Accumulation of materials can run the gamut. People clean up their house, have a yard sale, whatever, they like leaving stuff in their front yard, backyard. As long as people can see it, neighbors are going to complain about it. Minimum maintenance standards, we talked about that earlier. Abandoned vehicle or parking complaints. A lot of parking complaints are people parking over the water meters, since we've installed the new ones. And then trees in need of trimming, usually progressing into the roadway or into the neighbor's property.
I got a question on the accumulated material. I see folks who will put on for Big Trash Day all this stuff, but it'll be way before, it's like a couple of weeks before. I mean, what is the max time that they can have that out before Big Trash Day?
I believe it's 48 hours.
I think so, 48
I
hours.
think it's 48 hours, no more than 48 hours in advance.
So we're giving citations for that? I know it depends on, I think they have different Big Trash Days based on where you are in the city, so that might be hard to keep track of, but I have seen people, it's like 2 weeks from now is Big Trash Day, and you have this big, it's huge, so
Sometimes citations, sometimes letters. And that's one of those things that as we progress, it's going to have to be addressed with a citation. We'll reach a point where there's been enough saturation throughout the city with, look, it's been warned a million times. Everybody knows. And we just haven't reached that point yet. And there's not been enough good, solid documentation. Then we've, of course, maybe Aaron scrolled through them already, where we had a couple of good before and after pictures of some of the grass. There you go. We can bail that. Some years we'd have good hay.
I wish y'all wouldn't do that. I came in and cut it for hay.
Right.
That'd be great if you did.
And then we got some citations.
So this is after the city went in and, is that right?
Not necessarily. It could be.
Or they pushed them to mow.
It could be us, or it could be them. And ideally, we hope it's them. Even though we've invested the time in doing the investigation and documentation, ultimately, we hope they do it, because the more money they spend on doing it is the less money we have to spend, or the more money we can spend on somebody else. Ultimately, we want quantity of houses cleaned up. And the more people that spend the money themselves, the better off we are as a city. And then dilapidated structures. My records clerk and I both attended the certification so that we can all work on the dilapidated structures. There's a required certification by the state. We sent out 30 notifications this year for different structures, where we typically only send out 10. You all were good enough to put $55,000 in the budget this year to demolish these structures. We're hoping that the majority of these people will demolish the structures themselves.
And I want to say I'm happy to say that I've seen some houses that I just hate having there, and I saw the kind of posters or whatever on it saying that you have like 30 days and whatnot. So I really appreciate that, because that seems like we've kind of let some of these go for a long time, and I think it's time for us to be aggressive again.
And with it being my first year, there have been a couple of mistakes made, because I wish we had concentrated a little bit more heavily or targeted, some areas more strongly that are more. We put one on a shed, and for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why we did this shed, but we did, and I'm living with it, and I'm beating myself in the head about it, but we did it, and we'll go on down the road with it. And next year, I've already got some safeguards in place, so I don't have to strike myself about the face, I guess.
Well, I appreciate you doing those other structures I've seen that really need torn down.
Well, you're welcome, and I think we'll be a lot more efficient next year. although I am very happy this year. So, and then just in case on Mr. Ladd and Banner School, we still have that case continuing. We have 4 citations still in municipal court. It's scheduled to be heard before our municipal judge May 13th at 2 o'clock. Those citations are. And then we have filed our case in district court, and we are waiting for the district court judge to set a non-jury trial date. And that should happen sometime in June. Of course, you know, any number of things could happen in or about that could drag it out or postpone it or whatever, but
Hopefully not.
that's what we have for now.
You know, I hear people complain about that all the time.
Yes.
It's a nice.
Yes. But there's progress. There's progress. It's not just languishing.
What's the slide before that? I missed what the chart was
Citations.
Citations.
for grass specifically?
There was
For
total citations.
codes.
For example, we're at about 5, under 10 in FY13. Last year, there were about 35. Currently, in this fiscal year, and we're not into the high growth season, is around 20. So what you can see is that there is a significant increase in citations that have been issued since before Dawn and I were here. And, you know, and I may point out, you know, this is where the phone calls that we're getting right now, there's a 10-day appeal for dilapidated structures. That appeal ended this past Friday. I do receive quite a few appeals for individuals that don't have the funds to fix up the homes. All of those I have granted about 30 to 40-day extensions, hoping that maybe compliance is what we're seeking. We're not seeking to go and tear down people's homes. What we're seeking is one of the very specific council goals, which is an aesthetically pleasing community that then goes into economic development, et cetera. What we hear from are the individuals, of course, that are upset, and I think Dawn said it best about, even though they are our customer that may be violating an ordinance, our customers are also the 25 people that live around that property and have trouble selling their home, have trouble with value, have trouble with their homes. This is not, this is an operations item that we try to keep city council. I was going to say, the phone calls that I receive are usually somehow blaming you guys. By the way, they say that this must be a city council member that did this. So I want to be very clear that we abide by ordinances, and if that ordinance exists, we do our best to enforce that. So this is a staff operation that we bring to you at a certain time. We'll bring to you a bid to demolish some of these homes. And then, of course, what happens on the dilapidated buildings is that we go through a bid process. We do and can demolish a home, and then a lien is placed on the home. We do not take over the home, and that's been a misconception for the past week. I'm hearing that people think the city is going in and taking over their property. We don't want, nor could we afford to take over all the properties that are dilapidated within the city. So I want to clarify a little bit about dilapidated buildings, and the chart is to show you that citations have significantly increased.
So I want to clarify, so we had complaints and letters out. In 12-13, we had a whole lot of those out. We went down slightly the next year, but citations went way up.
In the fall, in FY14.
13-14, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it seems like we've really started enforcing the last year.
Yes,
That's-
last 2.
Other questions for the chief? Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, number 4, discussion regarding the bookmobile. Is that you?
That's me. Cindy O, our Director of Libraries.
All right, thank you for having me. I am Cindy O, Director over at the Public Library. I'm supposed to talk to you about bookmobile plans, but if you'll indulge me just a little bit, I'm going to start kind of broad and then narrow it in, and we will talk about the bookmobile. So I just wanted to say libraries in general, in my mind, have 2 very specific functions, serving as a community hub and then serving as a technology hub or an information hub. So when you think of a community hub, we are thinking about we want to be a third place. So where do most people spend their time? At home or at work? and we want to be that alternate place where people go because they want to meet up with other people, meet new friends, have new experiences, take part in different groups and clubs and programs. So we strive really hard to be that third place for folks. You might have heard a rumor that public libraries are not quiet anymore, and that is kind of true. We're really focusing more on a community element. Academic libraries have maintained their silence, but public libraries are definitely more of a community hub, and you're gonna get some noise. We want to draw people out just to encourage engagement, have an engaged community, engaged citizens. When you talk about an information hub, we've got physical resources and we've got digital resources, all designed to convey information to folks, allow people to continue their personal development, their professional development, their growth, allow them to be lifelong learners. As you know, our democracy is predicated on the idea of an informed citizenry. The public library is that institution that allows our people to be informed and to make good choices and to be civically engaged. So when you talk about physical resources, of course we've got books and magazines and audiobooks and all that good stuff. Digital materials, we've got downloadable ebooks and audiobooks, a tremendous amount of academic and educational databases, online language learning, digital magazines. As you can tell, technology is huge in public libraries now, and of course we are in the digital age. You can't apply for a job at McDonald's or Walmart without having the ability to get onto a computer and submit an online application. Taxes are going that same route. They're really encouraging online filing. Lots of healthcare information. People go to school online. And then just recreation and creation online. So having access to the internet is huge, and we're all sitting here with our smartphones and our tablets. There are a lot of people, believe it or not, that don't have that kind of hardware. They can't afford it. There's also folks that even if they could afford it, they live in areas where the internet is just not available. If the company doesn't believe that there's a market, they're not going to build the infrastructure to get internet out to those rural locations. So that's where the library comes into play. We provide that resource for everybody to get access to the World Wide Web. So as you all know, Guthrie Public Library serves all of Logan County. Even though we are a city department, our policy says that we serve residents who live in Logan County, also students who attend schools that serve Logan County. In the past, we've definitely provided I would call it passive service to the county, but over the past couple of years, we've gradually been shifting to a more active form of providing service, and I really think that being the primary library in the county, that's our obligation to provide that service. So, of course, we've got the physical presence, we've got the library building, people from all over the county are welcome to come in. We've got our digital services that allows us to provide services outside of the brick walls of the library. And then in the past couple years, we've been doing school outreach to all the county schools. So we'll go and talk with administrators, teachers, and parents of those county schools to let them know the resources that we have and how we want to help. That being said, we realize that it is a hardship for a lot of county folks to make it into Guthrie, to use our physical resources. We also recognize that it's a hardship for folks to use our digital resources. And that being said, we want to implement and provide bookmobile service throughout the county. So we want to bring books, movies, and also laptops and a mobile Wi-Fi hotspot to all the small towns in the county. We've got 3 routes planned out at this point. one that goes north, one that goes to the east, and then one that goes to the west and the south. Excuse me. We won a grant last year for $17,000, and that is basically funding our collection, our mobile collection. We also currently have laptops already that we can just throw into a bookmobile. We would just need to buy the mobile hotspot, and I think that the library budget can absorb that. That's no problem. We are still looking for a vehicle. We have a couple different ideas, but nothing has solidified yet. But we're definitely on the lookout. And staffing, I believe that we can absorb that too. It's just a matter of us prioritizing and planning the work that we do in the building and making sure that we can cover when people are out on the road. So this plan is definitely still ongoing, and I just wanted you all to know kind of what we were thinking, where we were coming from, and ultimately we want to provide the service to improve the quality of life for our neighbors and empower the citizens of the county, and give them access to information and resources. So that's
So
all I
Cindy,
have.
you want to talk about, I think maybe what would spur this is the donation, and the $14,000 is going to provide for materials, is that correct?
Yeah, we got, there was a grant opportunity through an anonymous donor, and we were selected to receive some money, so it was $17,961, and that is going to be our core collection for books. But it's exciting. We're definitely, it's like we've got all the framework in place, just a couple key pieces need to fall into place, and we'll be ready.
Any other questions for Cindy? Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, number 5, request for future items of discussion. I have one. We seem to have a concert, maybe not scheduled in September. However, rumor has it they've been told no. Rumor has it they're selling tickets. The problem being is if the wrong people keep posting it on Facebook, they may get tacit approval before it even comes before the council.
All contracts for the use of your property go before the city council. So we will always bring that to the city council, always.
Oh, I understand that, but everybody, they're saying it's still coming, so it's,
So what would you like the agenda to be? Because when it gets to that point, we bring it to council.
right. But I've heard that that's when Byron Berline does his stuff on that weekend, so
No, it's the 2 different weekends.
well, I know, but that's when they all start coming in, they do
And
the
we
barbecue.
fully recognize that.
Yeah.
So I'll bring it to council when a contract is ready.
When they do something, okay, so they haven't really done anything yet.
There is no
Okay.
existing contract.
Is that the tail one?
Yep,
Because
We are fully aware of the situation,
I was gonna
and
say,
we will
it's
bring.
on Channel 4, I'm going.
the publicity is really
They
kicked
sure
out there,
did.
and it's not there,
Wow.
so it needs to be.
No, there is not an existing contract with the city. I do not have that authority, and I will bring to the council when those individuals are ready to actually contract property by which they are announcing they have.
Wow. That sounds like a problem.
Anything else?
Be trespassing.
Yeah, really.
We're adjourned.